Listen, I refuse to let fear determine how I am going to move both with my career and financially. And I think a lot of people get trapped in that. So I'm going to use myself as an example and tell you how I came to the conclusions that I came to. When it comes to my career, but y'all already know, or for those of you who don't, I have two jobs. I'm an analyst, and I've been working late night delivery, doing Domino's for doing pizza deliveries. Now, I'm doing that because I'm trying to save as much money as I can so that I can start my own business. I can start doing rental real estate. And more recently, I have decided that I'm going to move a little bit closer to my folks so that me and my dad can start flipping houses sooner rather than later so that I can start using that money to get into rental real estate. Now, I am probably 3 months or so, I don't know exactly, away from a place where I will start really considering walking away from jobs, right? And just being full bore onto that real estate path. A couple things you know about that though. I am debt free. I live significantly below my means. Even with that though, it will be a risk. I will be taking a risk on this new business. And people might look at that and say, why would you walk away from jobs that you have, right? Why would you walk away from a steady job, especially because my analyst job is remote? Not saying I'm walking away from that right away, I'm not. But why would you consider that in order to do this new thing that's unproven? Well, I'll give you some reasons behind that. I think too often people who have proven themselves to be able to manage their finances and their resources get into this trap of doing something they don't want to do in order to and justify it through safety. They will say things like, well, it's a better bet for me to consistently get an income, consistently do this, consistently do that. And that's true in some sense, but in other ways it's not. Like, most of us work in at-will states. Most of us can be fired at any moment if something changes with the company's needs, if something changes with the company's revenue, you can be cut. And a lot of people are experiencing that these days right now. So I'm not saying that your job is bad, and if you like your job, you should leave. If you love your job, do your job. But at the same time, if you aspire to something different, why not look into the steps that it takes to do that? Again, I have money saved. I'm investing in this business because I'm going to own part of this business. And for me, that is more important. Building something of my own is more important. And I I get why people are so afraid. A lot of it, I think, is that one, it's true. Not everyone's meant to be a business owner, but two, for the people who are, a lot of them scare themselves out of it because we are programmed to sort of feel as though being tethered to a job is a representation of safety. And I slowly and but surely have started to be disillusioned. Like I've started to separate myself from that idea, in part because with that safety, there comes a level of control that you lose. I've talked about on this channel how you can't have safety and freedom. You can't have both. So if you are truly safe at your job, it means you have less control over what you do. And for me personally, that's a non-starter. I do want to be in control, even if it means I might make less money to begin with. Losing control of my life does not seem worth safety. Now, is there some ratio or like formula there? Probably, but I can't justify losing out on my freedom completely in order to say I have a job and an income and that this is safe, right? Like there's other things I could do. Like, honestly, I would rather work, let's not call it, like, I would work dominoes for the rest of my life. Like, I would rather work food service jobs of all types and use that kind of money to build my own thing rather than have like $150,000 a year job and say, like, look at my title and look at how much they need me. I'm safe. Because I've seen what those people have to do in order to maintain that level. And none of it seems like anything I would be willing to do for a long period of time. Now, you could say, hey, like, oh, John just can't hack it. Sure, maybe that's the answer. Maybe I am not built for that kind of life. Call it whatever you want. For me, that represents a deviation from the kind of life that I would want, which is precisely why I did not continue down the software engineering path. That's why I made that video, because I want people to understand that if you're going to be at the top of your craft in anything, you're going to have to dedicate a certain amount of time to it. And that craft was not important enough to me to dedicate that kind of time to, whether or not I was the boss or not. I didn't want to work for anybody doing it, and I damn sure didn't want to do it as with me being the boss. Absolutely not. So realizing that after being in it for a while just showed me what was important to me. So that's part of it. That's part of it, is that you lose control when you are safe. The other part of it is, are you really safe? Again, as things change, you can be let go. And the way my wife was described, my wife and I were talking about this. Like, she was saying how the idea of us going out on our own and having our own business at some point, how it feels like we're untethered, right? Like we're just floating out in space. And my response to her was, it's true that we would really kind of be floating out in space, but you got to remember, if you're at a job, you're still floating out in space. You're just tethered to something else. And it's that tethering to the other thing that makes you feel like you are grounded, but you still are floating. And at any moment, that tether can be broken, again, by the company you're tethered to. So don't misunderstand where you are because of how it feels. Just because you are tethered to something else and you're floating out in space, it doesn't mean you're grounded. We are all out here floating. And if that's the case, what's the issue with me potentially being the thing that is tethering others? I would rather people tether to me and depend on me than me to be dependent on them. That's just how I view that scenario. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody. Hopefully it does, whatever, if it doesn't. But in my view, we're all out here floating. We're all out here, and at any moment's notice, we could be on our own, separated from anything that is grounded, because that's how life works. Like, none of this is solid enough for you to just be able to, depend on it no matter what. There are still things that you have to do. And if that's the case, if I'm going to work that hard, I'd rather work that hard for something that I am in charge of. That's just how I see it. And real estate's been something I've always been interested in. So for me, that's the natural progression. And I say all that to say, if you are someone who values your job, if you're someone who really likes the idea of going into work every day, having, leadership that can give you direction, maybe giving other people direction in a company environment, in that setting, this video ain't for you. Like, I get it. Do what you want to do. But I think if you're someone who is on the fence and you're saying to yourself, well, safety is the issue, ask yourself, what is safe about your current situation? And what is it about it that makes it feel safe? Because if it's just the money, then there are some things you can do to mitigate that risk. You can get yourself out of bed. You can drastically reduce your lifestyle. Because again, if being on your own is important to you, then the rest of it has to pay the price. You can't sit around and lounge and have all the things that people who work all day and come home and placate themselves with. You can't have all of that if you're also going to own a business. That's the real trade-off. When you work for somebody else and they pay you large sums of money, they pay you large sums of money so that you can go buy things to make yourself feel good in the time that you have that's down. And eventually, what happens is you use that money to buy more things, you end up in more debt. This is how people always wonder how people who make $150,000, $200,000 a year are in debt. This is what happens to them. They go out and buy more shit, they're in more debt, and basically their debt just becomes a ratio of what they make, just like everybody else. And then they have to go back to work and work even harder so that they can maintain the lifestyle that they have. So that it becomes a situation where you're trapped. It's golden handcuffs. Yeah, the job got you all this great stuff, but now you can't remove yourself from the job because it means you'd be underwater and you wouldn't have any of the stuff. So if it's really that important to you to go out on your own and the only thing that's sort of messing with you mentally is the safety part of it, look around you. Maybe the safety that you are looking for is can be sold off in all the shit that you actually don't need. Like, how much crap have you accumulated over the last 10 years that you actually don't need that could start the thing that you say you want to start? Just tell yourself, have a real honest conversation with yourself about what's important and prioritize what you say you want. And that can start by selling shit off that you use once or twice or that you say you really want. Like, do we all need gaming systems? Do we all need computers? Do we all need flat screen TVs? Do we all need, you might need a phone. Do you all need every sports package and cable? Like, we've been living without like actual TV. Like, we've been living with just Hulu and I think Peacock for years now. We used to have, what is it called? Is it Showtime? I don't know, but something like that. And we just got rid of that too. Cause like, honestly, well, what do we need this shit for? I don't need this shit. And I'm saying like that you have to prioritize what you actually want. If you want it, go get it. If you don't, then stay where you're at. And that's fine. But just don't let anybody else, and certainly don't let fear make those kind of decisions for you. That's all I'm saying. I refuse in 2025 or any other year going forward to let fear make my choices for me. So, anyway, those are the things I was thinking about today. And I wanted to make sure I talked to y'all today because it was on my mind. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to y'all soon.